I looked around, people were laughing, talking, living their lives.
And I realized something, life didn't stop. Even when my world felt like it ended,
Time kept moving and slowly so did I. I started to focus on myself, my goals, my dreams, these things I forgot when I was in love.
now I understood something I didn't understand before. Love is not just about happiness, it's also about lessons. And sometimes the hardest lessons
come from the deepest pain. Love is not something you can control. Feeling can change, and that's part of life. What we had was real, at least to me, and that matters because it showed me that I can love deeply, truly, honestly, and even though it hurt, I don't regret it.
because that experience changed me. It made me stronger, more understanding, more human, and maybe that's what makes it worth it.
Not the pain itself, but what it teaches you.
A true story about love that hurt so much. My name is Lucas. I still remember the day I told myself I knew it would hurt. At that time, I thought I was ready. I thought I understood what pain meant, but I didn't. Not really, because some pain doesn't come loudly. It doesn't break you in one moment. It stays, slowly, quietly. And that is the kind of pain that changes you. It all started in a very simple way. Nothing dramatic, nothing special. Just a normal day at university. I was sitting alone, looking at my phone, pretending to be busy. I didn't have many close friends back then. I was the quiet type. I liked to observe more than talk. That's when I first saw her. Her name was Olivia. She was laughing with her friends. Her smile was bright and her voice was soft, but full of life.
I don't know why, but something about her made me look twice. I told myself, she is not your type. But my heart didn't listen.
A few days later, we talked for the first time. It was nothing important. She just asked,
"Is this seat free?"
and I said, yes. That was it. But somehow, that small moment became the beginning of everything. After that, we started talking more. At first, it was just simple conversations. Did you finish your homework? Do you understand this lesson? Normal things. But slowly, those conversations became longer, deeper, more personal. She told me about her dreams. I told her about my fears. She laughed at my jokes. But she didn't laugh, even when they were not funny. And I started to feel something I hadn't felt before: comfort. It felt easy to be around her. It felt natural. Her name was Olivia, but sometimes I called her my peace. I didn't say it out loud, but that's what she was. We started to spend more time together.
We would walk after class. Sometimes we just sat in silence, but that silence was never uncomfortable. It was warm, safe, and that's when I realized something.
I was falling in love, but I didn't want to admit it. Because love is beautiful, but it is also dangerous. Still, I couldn't stop myself. One evening, we were sitting in a small cafe. She was looking at her drink, slowly stirring it. Then she asked me,
Lucas, do you believe in love?
I paused. I didn't know what to say. So I answered honestly. I think love is something that can make you very happy, but it can also hurt you very deeply.
She smiled, a soft, quiet smile, and she said,
I think so too.
That moment stayed with me, because I didn't know that one day I would understand those words in a way I never wanted. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Olivia became part of my everyday life.
Good morning messages, late night calls, sharing small stories about our day, laughing about nothing.
Those little things, they didn't feel important at that time, but they were. They were everything. One day, I finally said it. I like you. My heart was beating fast. I was scared. Very scared. She didn't walk away. She just looked at me and said,
I like you, too.
That moment felt like a dream, a beautiful dream. And for a while, everything was perfect.
We became a couple. We did all the simple things together. Watching movies, walking in the park, taking photos, sharing food, talking about the future.
I remember she once said,
I hope this never ends.
and I said, it won't. But now, when I think about it, I realize something. We always say forever when we are happy. Even when we don't really know what forever means. At first, everything was easy. But slowly, things started to change. Not in a big way. Not suddenly. Just small things. She became a little distant. Her replies were slower. Her voice was quieter. At first, I told myself, she's just busy. I didn't want to think too much. I didn't want to worry, because I was afraid of the truth. One night, I called her. She didn't answer. That was not normal. She always answered. Always. I tried again. Still nothing. Then I sent a message. Are you okay? No reply. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind was full of questions. What happened? Did I do something wrong? Is she okay? The next day, she finally replied.
I'm sorry. I was busy.
Just one sentence. Cold. Short. Different. Something didn't feel right. But I didn't push her. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to lose her. So I stayed quiet. Days passed. And the distance between us grew. We still talked, but it wasn't the same. The warmth was gone. The comfort was fading, and I could feel it. Even when she said,
I'm fine.
I knew she wasn't. And maybe I wasn't either. One evening, we met again. At the same cafe where everything once felt perfect. But this time, it felt different. Heavy, quiet, uncomfortable. She didn't smile the same way. She didn't look at me the same way. I tried to start a conversation, but the words felt empty. Finally, she looked at me and said,
Lucas, I think we need to talk.
My heart dropped, because deep inside, I already knew. Sometimes, you don't need someone to say it. You can feel it, the ending, slowly coming closer. And in that moment, I realized something I didn't want to accept. Love was about to hurt me. And this time, it wouldn't be a small pain. It would stay, not just in my heart, but in my memories, in my daily life, in the quiet moments I didn't even know how to prepare for. My heart was beating so fast, I could hear it in my ears. I looked at Olivia, but I couldn't find the right words. It felt like everything was about to change. And I was right. She took a deep breath. Then she said,
Lucas, I don't feel the same anymore.
Just one sentence. But it felt like everything inside me broke. I stayed quiet. Not because I didn't care, but because I didn't know how to react. How do you respond when someone you love stops loving you? I forced a small smile. What do you mean? I asked, even though I already understood. She looked down.
I don't know when it changed,
She said softly.
but it did.
Those words hurt more than I expected. Because it wasn't anger, it wasn't a fight. It was calm. And sometimes, calm endings are most painful. I asked her, did I do something wrong? She shook her head.
No. You were good to me. You did everything right.
That made it worse. Because if I did everything right, why did it still end? I felt confused, lost, empty. We sat there in the silence. The same cafe, the same table. But everything felt different now. Before, this place was full of warmth. Now, it felt cold. Strange. Like a place I didn't belong anymore. I wanted to say something. Anything. To fix it. To change her mind. But deep inside, I knew. Love doesn't work like that. You can't force someone to feel something. You can't ask someone to stay if their heart has already left. So I just nodded slowly and said, okay. That okay was the hardest word I ever said. Because it didn't mean I was okay. It meant I was letting go. Even when I didn't want to. She looked at me one last time.
I'm sorry.
She said. Then she stood up and walked away. Just like that. No big goodbye. No long explanation. Just gone. I sat there alone for a long time. I didn't cry, not yet. I just stared at the empty chair in front of me. The chair where she used to sit. The place where we used to laugh. Where we used to talk for hours. And now, it was just empty. That was the moment I understood something. It wasn't just her I was losing. It was everything. The routine, the habits. The little things that became part of my life. The good morning messages, the late night calls, the simple, "How was your day?" All gone. I walked home slowly that night. Everything felt quiet. Too quiet. Even the city felt different. Like the world moved on. But I was still stuck in that moment. When I got home, I checked my phone. No messages. No notifications. Nothing. That silence. It was louder than anything. The next few days were the hardest. I tried to act normal. I went to class. I talked to people. I smiled. But inside, I felt empty. I kept checking my phone, even when I knew she wouldn't text. I kept thinking about her. Every moment, every memory, every word she said. I tried to distract myself. I watched movies, listened to music, went out with friends, but nothing worked. Because no matter what I did, something always reminded me of her. A song, a place, a small joke. And suddenly, everything came back. Fresh, painful, like it just happened. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I opened our old messages. I read everything. From the first hi to the last, "I'm sorry." And that's when it hit me. The tears finally came. Not slowly, not quietly, but all at once. I cried for everything. For what we had, for what we lost, for what we could have been, and for the future that would never happen. I kept asking myself one question. Why? Why did it end? Why did she change? Why wasn't I enough? But no matter how many times I asked, there was no answer. And that was the hardest part. Sometimes there is no clear reason, no big mistake, no dramatic ending, just feelings that fade, slowly, silently, until there is nothing left. After that night, I started to understand something. Pain doesn't leave quickly. It stays. In small ways. In quiet moments. In the things you don't expect. Like waking up and reaching for your phone. Then remembering there is no one to text. Or hearing a song. And suddenly, feeling everything again. That's when I realized something important. Healing is not simple. It doesn't happen in one day, or 1 week. It moves slow. Sometimes forward, sometimes backward. Some days, I felt okay, like I was getting better. But then, something small would happen, and all the pain would come back again. And I would feel like I was at the beginning. But little by little, things started to change. Not completely, but enough. Enough to breathe. Enough to think. Enough to see things differently. I started to understand that. Maybe the pain wasn't there to destroy me. Maybe it was there to teach me something. Something about love. Something about myself. Something about letting go. And maybe, just maybe, that was the beginning of healing. After that, life didn't suddenly become better. There was no magic moment. No day where I woke up and said, "I'm completely fine now." Healing didn't work like that. It was slow. Very slow. Some mornings, I felt okay. I could smile again. I could focus on my day. But other mornings, I woke up with a heavy heart, missing her for no reason. Thinking about the past again. That's when I understood something clearly. Healing isn't linear. It doesn't go in a straight line. Sometimes you move forward. Sometimes you fall back. And that's normal. At first, I tried to forget Olivia. I tried to remove everything. Her photos, her messages. Anything that reminded me of her. I thought that would make things easier, but it didn't. Because memories don't live in your phone. They live in your mind. In your heart. And you can't delete that so easily. So, instead of running away, I started to face it. Slowly, gently. I allowed myself to feel the sadness, the loneliness, even the anger. Because I realized something important. Emotions don't disappear just because. You ignore them, they wait. And then they come back stronger. So I stopped pretending. I stopped saying, "I'm okay" when I wasn't. I accepted the pain. Not because I wanted it, but because it was real. And that was the first step of healing. I looked around. People were laughing, talking, living their lives. And I realized something. Life didn't stop, even when my world felt like it ended. Oh, time kept moving. And slowly, so did I. I started to focus on myself, my goals, my dreams. These things I forgot when I was in love. Now I understood something I didn't understand before. Love is not just about happiness. It's also about lessons. And sometimes, the hardest lessons come from the deepest pain. Love is not something you can control. Feeling can change. And that's part of life. What we had was real. At least to me. And that matters. Because it showed me that I can love. Deeply, truly, honestly, and even though it hurt. I don't regret it. Because that experience changed me. It made me stronger, more understanding, more human, and maybe that's what makes it worth it. Not the pain itself, but what it teaches you.
I looked around, people were laughing, talking, living their lives.
And I realized something, life didn't stop. Even when my world felt like it ended.
Time kept moving and slowly so did I. I started to focus on myself, my goals, my dreams, these things I forgot when I was in love.
Now I understood something I didn't understand before. Love is not just about happiness, it's also about lessons. And sometimes the hardest lessons
come from the deepest pain. Love is not something you can control. Feeling can change, and that's part of life. What we had was real, at least to me, and that matters. showed me that I can love deeply, truly, honestly, and even though it hurt, I don't regret it.
Because that experience changed me. It made me stronger, more understanding, more human, and maybe that's what makes it worth it.
Not the pain itself, but what it teaches you.